Please first excuse me if I don't go through the process of recognizing our distinguished guests, because I think this is the first occasion in the Reagan Library where virtually everyone here is a distinguished guest. But I would like to recognize and to thank the congressional delegation, the members of the military, and secretaries from the Defense Department are here with us. Welcome to you all. At the dedication of the Reagan Library, President Reagan defined its purpose by describing it as a living institution where scholars interpret the past and policymakers debate the future. It is with tremendous support from our Reagan Foundation sponsors that we're able to fulfill this purpose year in and year out, and especially today. I'd like to convey our special appreciation to Northrop Grumman for their leadership, and to Raytheon, and to all of our sponsors today. Please join me in conveying our gratitude. And now, to begin our program, I would like to invite Commander Laura Bender, Regimental Chaplain for the Wounded Warrior Regiment, to lead us in this morning's Pledge of Allegiance and invocation.
Please join with me now in the recitation of our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let us be in prayer. Almighty and gracious God, gather our minds and hearts from all the scattered places so that we may focus our attention on the task set before us today, that of moving our nation forward with strength to secure a peaceful future. Oh God, 12 long years of war have burdened us and hard challenges lie ahead. But we are a people whose heritage is strength, ingenuity, and the ability to persist until victory is achieved. Through the centuries, our warriors have continually stood against all enemies with courage, wisdom, honor, and fortitude. They have fought to alleviate oppression, build up civil society, defend the Constitution, uphold human rights and dignity, provide humanitarian assistance, and work toward that glorious day when there might be a just and lasting peace. As heirs to their legacy, we already have within us the will to forge the way ahead. So then let us look to this day with hope and confidence, as through dialogue we search for the means. As our conversations ensue, let us remain ever mindful, O God, of the commitment we, as a grateful nation, must keep to all those who have borne the cost of our long wars. Let us remember those families whose sons, daughters, and spouses, whose loved ones have made the supreme sacrifice. Let us remember all those for whom peace in the home has been challenged by long separations and arduous duties, many who are still today in harm's way. Let us remember all those who have been wounded in body, mind, or spirit, keeping in prayer those who struggle to live with new physical normals, those who have difficulty managing because of cognitive changes, those for whom hope, meaning, and connection seem elusive. As we remember our wounded, ill, and injured, let us pray also for their loved ones who must often bear the twin burdens of caregiving and altered relationships. O merciful God, keep us ever vigilant and mindful of our obligation to provide for those who have borne the cost of our long wars by providing nothing less than the ongoing care and resources they need to be restored to fullness of life. As now we prepare to carry out our plan of the day, I offer to you, O God, a heartfelt prayer for our nation's leaders gathered here, especially as they struggle to guide our country in a time of uncertainty and ever-diminishing resources. I am certain, O God, that there are times when only you and they know the weight of the burdens they bear. And so I pray that you will be for them a wellspring of wisdom and hope, so that as a nation we can move into the future with confidence and strength. In your most holy name we pray. Amen.
Please be seated. Thank you, Commander Bender. In building his presidential library, Ronald Reagan made it clear to all of us that it should not just be a place that focuses on the successes of the past, but also on the promise of the future. Today's forum would certainly fulfill his goal. For as we all know, restoring and expanding America's defenses after their post-Vietnam decline was among the central goals and highest achievements of his presidency, and the essential predicate to his successful strategy for what Margaret Thatcher described as winning the Cold War without firing a shot. Think of what that required: building a 600-ship Navy, modernizing and expanding all military branches, initiating the Strategic Defense Initiative for ending the doctrine of mutually assured destruction, and making sure our soldiers, sailors, Marines, and airmen knew that the country honored their service and they could be proud to wear its uniform again. No task was closer to President Reagan's heart or more constantly on his mind than ensuring the unquestionable indomitability of America's military, the greatest force for peace that the world has ever known. But if he were here today, President Reagan would probably be the first to point out that peace through strength was not a strategy he invented. For as he told the graduating class at West Point in May of his first year in office, quote, "I accept without question the words of George Washington: to be prepared for war is one of the most effectual means of preserving peace." By the way, he was quick to point out to the graduates that he did not actually hear that from George Washington. Today, we address the future in the first Ronald Reagan Defense Forum, an event we hope will become an annual event here at the Reagan Presidential Library. Our goal is to take the enduring principle of peace through strength and ask to apply its standards to the current age and the years to come. Today's challenges are very different than 3 decades ago. As had his 7 immediate predecessors, President Reagan confronted a single superpower adversary, an adversary that possessed a nuclear missile force capable of annihilating the United States. It was an adversary that harbored ambitions of global domination and that opposed our most cherished values of freedom and the rule of law and government of, by, and for the people. But today's world is very different. While our old enemy, the Soviet Union, is gone, our relationship with Russia, while not hostile, is not always friendly. China was our ally then. What is it now? We hear about a pivot to Asia. What will that mean over the next dozen years? What is our approach to the threat of terrorism? What fighting force will that require? And what is our national strategy? How do we maintain our nation's safety if defense budgets decline? Well, these and more are questions that will be considered today here at the Reagan Presidential Library. And we are honored to start off with one of America's great patriots and champions of a strong defense, House Armed Services Committee Chairman Buck McKeon. Chairman McKeon assumed leadership of this vital committee in January 2011. He was elected to the House in 1992 following a career that combined business and civic leadership, including serving on the local school board and city council in the town nearby of Santa Clarita, California. Now, this is something you may not know about Buck McKeon. Buck started college in 1958. He graduated from college in 1985. That was not because Buck was a slow student. He decided to interrupt his college for a mission for his church. And during that hiatus, he married Patricia. Together, they raised 6 children. He began his career in business, and before entering public service, he became involved in the Boy Scouts, the Little League, and other civic organizations. I guess you could say he got a bit distracted from his college plans. So when he ended this hiatus and returned to school and finished his degree, His graduating classmates included his daughter, Tamara Morrison. Chairman McKeon has said that his objectives for his committee are: 1, ensuring our troops deployed around the world have the equipment, resources, authorities, training, and time they need to successfully complete their missions, and 2, peace through strength. Ladies and gentlemen, and honored guests, please join me in welcoming House Armed Services Committee Chairman Buck McKeon. I hope it was okay to share that story.
Well, thank you very much, Fred, for that warm introduction, and thank you for pointing out that I wasn't just a slow student. And, you know, I became chairman of the subcommittee called Lifelong Learning and a lot of other things, but I think that's why they did that. Thank you, especially for all you've done to make it possible for us to be here today. And thanks to all of you for being here. I have so many friends, family, colleagues here. I could spend the day just talking about each of you and what you mean to me and what you mean to our great nation. But I do have to single out a couple of people. Anne Koroligas. Would you please stand, Anne? You know her as President Reagan's Secretary of Labor. She worked closely with Fred on the board to make this happen. We really appreciate that. Has Pete Wilson arrived yet? Governor Pete Wilson is also on the board and also was very helpful, and he'll be arriving here at some point today, and we wanted to thank him. I also have to mention two of my old staffers who are here today with us. Roger Zackheim. Where are you, Roger? Back, well, they conveniently are standing back there together. Roger Zackheim, our former Deputy Staff Director on the House Armed Services Committee, and Bob Cochran, my 20-year Chief of Staff. They have worked, they came to me with this idea. They came with this idea about a year ago and have worked very hard for the past year to make this happen. And we can't thank them enough for all that they've done, and I know you're going to benefit greatly through being here today from their efforts. You know, 50 years ago on a beautiful autumn day such as today, a U-2 spy plane flew over the island of Cuba and took 900 photos of a suspicious-looking construction site. It was there that DIA analysts found nuclear missiles pointed at the United States. With a click of a camera shutter, the great powers of the world snapped from a peacetime to a wartime footing. Today, we remember just how quickly that can happen. But there's another lesson to be learned. Over 13 days in October, President Kennedy was in a tough spot. He was stuck between those who wanted to bomb the Soviets to kingdom come and those who wanted to just talk their way out of the crisis. At the time, my father and my uncles owned a grocery store. I was just a young man at the time, but I remember working there, and in a couple of hours, the shelves were clean. People panicked across the nation, and they emptied out stores preparing for having some food to be able to survive. They all thought we were going to war. The White House understood the stakes, so the president took his smartest advisors, stuck them in a room, and had them work out a solution. Although they were a diverse group, they were able to help steer this country out of a dangerous crisis. Here we have another diverse group of experts. And here we have even more problems that put our national security at risk. A couple of days ago, in just one day, I had 3 high-level threat briefings on Iran, Afghanistan, and our strategic rebalance in the Pacific. One day. Threats don't get much more diverse than that. We have officials here from all ends of the political spectrum, experts from all ends of the strategic spectrum, industry leaders, military leaders, and even some company-grade officers, Air Force, Marines, stationed here locally. Would you please stand? Let me just ask you, I know you're sitting together with your buddies, but during the day, will you please circulate amongst the rest of us? We want to talk to you. We want to find out what you need. You're our future leaders. Please, let us benefit from your experiences. They're the new generation. Here we have the older generation. You don't get those 4 stars on there when you're just a kid. This last month, we lost 2 of our very best from an older generation. Chairman Ike Skelton and Bill Young both passed away last month. Ike was a Democrat who chaired the Armed Services Committee. Bill was a Republican who chaired the Appropriations and Defense Appropriations Committee. Anyone who knows Congress knows that authorizers like Ike and appropriators like Bill are kind of like cats and dogs. The relationship isn't always cordial. It's all about money. That's especially true when they sit on opposite sides of the aisle. But those two could always be counted on to toss politics aside when it came to our military. Our troops came first, every time, all the time. I wish they were here with us today. We could all take a page out of their book. But what better way to kick off this forum? This library remembers a great Republican leader whose resolve ushered in the end of the Cold War. We could not find a better setting for a forum such as this. But Ronald Reagan did not do it alone. He worked with a Democratic Congress to put aside political differences and do what was strategically right and what was strategically smart. Ike and Bill lived that example. Today, I hope we follow their example. Here's what we have to figure out. Here's what we have to get right. Thanks to men like Presidents Kennedy and Reagan, we don't have to worry about thousands of Soviet missiles pointed in our direction. But the military is stressed in a very real and a very severe way. Strategically, the world is a mess. Old powers are reborn, new ones are rising. Advances in technology mean a small group of men with 4 airplanes can launch the longest war in American history. The number of dimensions that can host conflict have grown more in the past 100 years than over the entire course of history. Underwater, in the air, in space, and in cyberspace. All of these elements are coming to a head. Are we ready? Are we prepared? Politics and economics have turned on us and are stressing the military to a breaking point. $1 trillion in cuts are bad, but so's the way we've been spending money. So is the way we've been buying weapons. In 1955, 4 naval officers gave McDonnell Aircraft requirements for a new all-weather interceptor. By 1961, the first F-4 Phantom was active. We built over 5,000 of them, and the Phantom was flown by the Navy, the Air Force, and the Marines. Everyone here is tired of spending 2 decades to build a ship, or a jet, or a radio, for that matter. Everyone's tired of pumping billions into gee-whiz gizmos, only to have those weapons canceled within eyesight of the finish line. Whether it's Congress imposing too many regulations on the Pentagon, Whether it's the Pentagon imposing too many requirements on industry, or whether it's industry imposing too much cost on Congress, this downward spiral must stop, and it must stop now. All the players are here. We have the smart people in this room. My great hope for this forum is that we knock our heads together and figure out a solution for the strategic, structural, and budgetary problems that plague us. I hope that the work we start here today is expanded on in the looming QDR and planning milestones. That's my hope, and I think this is a great start. As long as we're in this building that commemorates Ronald Reagan, I would like to end with some remarks that he made when he was still governor of California. The dustbin of history is littered with the remains of those countries which relied on diplomacy to secure their freedom. We must never forget, in the final analysis, that it is our military, industrial, and economic strength that offers the best guarantee of peace for America in times of danger. Thank you, Fred, for the library's hospitality. Thank you all for coming. Let this forum set the tone for many more to come. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, for setting just the perfect tone for the conversations and panels and discussions that will follow. I wanted to do one thing, and as the chairman pointed out, we're delighted to have on our board trustees of the Reagan Library, former United States Senator, former California Governor, member of the Armed Services Committee. The chairman attempted to point him out earlier, and he's just arrived, Governor Pete Wilson. Pete, would you stand and be acknowledged? Well, now we're going to break into a series of panels to discuss and debate the important issues that the chairman just highlighted. Our first two panels will begin promptly at 9 o'clock, about 10 minutes from now. Panel 1 is entitled, "What Should the Asia Rebalance Look Like in 2025?" And that's going to be held just across the way in the Presidential Learning Center. Panel 2 is entitled, "Caring for Our Wounded Warriors, Keeping Faith After a Decade of War," and that will be held just one floor up from where we are right now. So thank you all for coming today, and in particular, thank you for those who are participating in our panel discussions. We hope you all enjoy the program. Thank you.